Today I am going to teach lesson number 2, the elixir of life. So what is the elixir of life? Pre-reading activity. It is said that if the Third World War breaks out, it will be for the sake of water. Do you agree? In this statement, the writer asks the question to the reader. He says that if the Third World War breaks out, will it be for the sake of water? You have to give the reason for your answer. If yes, you have to give the reason. If no, then also you have to give the reason. Man has through the ages sought in vain for an imaginary elixir of life. So here the writer says that man through the ages, from the ancient times, he was seeking. Sought is the V2 form of seek. He was seeking for an imaginary elixir of life. So what is the meaning of elixir? Elixir means a liquid substance which has magical power to prolong life. So since through the ages man was trying for an imaginary elixir of life, that is the divine Amrita, that is pure water, which is a gift of God and it is believed to be immortal. But it is in vain, means man has not got success in it. But the true elixir of life lies near to our hands. Man is searching to discover the imaginary elixir of life, that is the divine Amrita, but it is already there in our hands, means already we are blessed with it by God, for it is the commonest of all liquids. So what is water? Water is the commonest of all liquids. It is a common and it is a plain water. In the second paragraph, I remember one day standing on the line which separates the Libyan desert from the valley of the Nile in Egypt. Here, the writer is sharing one of his experience. He says that one day he was standing on the line and that line was separating, that line was dividing the Libyan desert, it is a name of a desert, from the valley of the Nile in Egypt. So that line was separating from the valley of the Nile in Egypt. Nile is the name of the river. See here the picture of river Nile, you could see it. On one side was visible a sea of billowing sand. So one side he saw a sand without a speck of green or single living things. Speck means dot. Here we can get the meaning little also greenery, he could not see it. On the other side lay one of the greenest, most fertile and densely populated areas to be found anywhere on the earth. So on the other side, he saw the place was greenest. It was very fertile. Fertile means fit for agriculture, and it was densely populated. Densely means thickly populated. Teeming with life. Teeming means full of. That place was full of life, that is, it was thickly populated. One could see the human beings, animals, and vegetation. Vegetation means agriculture, cropping. What made this wonderful difference? So the writer is asking why we see such kind of wonderful difference. It is the water of the river Nile flowing down to the Mediterranean from its sources a couple of thousands of miles away. So the difference is because of the river water. Because from one side the river Nile flows down and it joins to the Mediterranean Sea from its sources a couple of thousands, couple means few, of thousands of miles, few miles away from. Geologists tell us that the entire soil of the river Nile valley is the creation of the river itself. Geologist, one who studies about the earth. Geologist, they tell that the whole soil, entire means whole soil of the river Nile valley is the creation of river itself. Means whatever soil we can find it there, it is the creation of river itself. Means it is made up by river Nile. It was brought down as the finest silt in its flood water. So how the river Nile creates the soil? River Nile, when it flows with a greater speed, when it has the flood, that time the finest silt means here the broken pieces of the sand, bricks, stones, which flow down with the force of the water. So it is that river has the deposits of this soil from the highlands of Abyssinia and from remote Central Asia. So as it flows down from the highlands of Abyssinia to the remote Central Africa and lay down through the edges in the trough through which the Nile flows into the sea. So here another new word we can find it, trough. So what is a trough? Trough is the mouth or the low place from where the river takes its direction. That is channel also we can say it, which the river Nile flows into the sea, as the river Nile flows and joins to the sea. Egypt in fact was made by its river. So Egypt is made by its river. Means the whole Egypt we can see that it is a very fertile and it is surrounded by the river. Its ancient civilization was created and is sustained by the life-giving waters which come down year after year with unfailing regularity. So in the Egyptian civilization, which is one of the ancient civilization, and it is sustained by the life, it is full of life, and it is because of the water, and water flows year after year with unfailing regularity. Means without fail the river flows and that place has the water. I give this example and could give many others to emphasize that the common substance which we take for granted in our everyday life is the most potent and the most wonderful thing on the face of our earth. So here the writer says that he has given examples and many more examples also. He is giving it to emphasize that the common substance. So which is the common substance here? The common substance is water, and we take for granted. Means we think that it is not so important, but it is very, very important in our day-to-day life. Potent, important, and we can say that it is wonderful thing also on the earth. It has played a role of vast significance in shaping the course of the earth's history and continues to play the leading role in the drama of life on the surface of our planet. So here water has played a very important role on the surface of our earth. Not only at present, when we read the history, we can find that water was important in ancient days also, and it is important even in future also, and it plays a leading role in the drama of our life on the surface of this planet. Here planet is the earth. There is nothing which adds so much to the beauty of the countryside as water. In this paragraph, the writer describes the beauty of the villages. Be it just a little stream trickling over the rocks or a little pond by the wayside where the cattle quench their thirst of an evening. You could see it, the little streams trickling over the rocks and little ponds. You could see it, and you could see the cattle grazing, and in the evening they could quench their thirst. Rain-fed tanks that are so common in South India. Now here the writer says that rain-fed tanks, they are very common in South India. Alas, often so badly, so sadly neglected in their maintenance. But he feels sorry to see the conditions of those rain-fed tanks because they are not maintained properly. Now he says that when anyone looks at those tanks, when they are full, it is a cheering sight. It is a beautiful sight. It is a beautiful sight. It looks very beautiful. They are of course shallow, but they are not full. They are shallow. They are not very deep. They are shallow. But this is less evident since the water is silt laden. But it is less evident. It is proved that water is silt laden. Silt laden means you could see it, the silt under it. Silt is the broken pieces of the sand, soil, etc. and throws the light back, and the bottom doesn't therefore show up. So as those tanks are silt laden, so it is very difficult for anyone to see the bottom of those tanks. These tanks play a vital role in South Indian agriculture. So those tanks which are rain fed, they play a very important role, vital, important. They play a very important role in South Indian agriculture. That is, people in South India, they utilize that water for the agricultural purpose. Some of these tanks are surprisingly large. So some tanks which are there in South India, when you look at it, they are very large, and by seeing it you will be shocked. And it is beautiful sight to see the sunrise or set over one of them, and one could see the beauty of the place by seeing the sunrise or sunset. Water in the landscape may be compared to the eyes in a human face. So here, as how the eyes are very important, in the same way water is also very important. Water in the landscape, that is on the earth, it is compared to the human eyes on a face. It reflects the mood of hour. So it shows the mood of the hour being bright and gay when the sun shines. So when the morning, when you look at it, one feels very happy by seeing the sunrise, and it becomes dark and gloomy when the sky is overcast. When the sun sets, overcasting means not seen. When the sky is not seen means at the evening when you look, it will be dull and gloomy. One of the most remarkable fact about water is its power to carry silt. So another one quality you can find it in water, that is, water has the power to carry silt. Silt means broken pieces of the sand, soil and other particles, or finely divided soil in suspension. So you could see it. Water has the power to carry. Water has the power to carry the finely particles. So here suspension means the state of water with very small particles of sand and with other particles. This is the origin of the characteristics color of the water in rain fed tanks. So with that you could see the color of water. Here actually water doesn't have the color, but when it is mixed with other particles, we can see that color water. This color varies from nature of the earth, means the color is seen with the nature of the soil of that place in the catchment area. So here catchment area means the area which collects plentiful rainfall, maximum rainfall when it is collected in a particular place, that is called as the catchment area. And is most vivid immediately after a fresh inflow following rain. So when the fresh water is mixed with that stagnant water, we can see the color of the water accordingly to the nature of the earth. Swiftly flowing water can carry fairly large and heavy particles. So even the water which flows swiftly, it also carries large and heavy particles. The finest particles, however, remain floating, means whichever particles are very light weighted, those will be floating on the water within the liquid in spite of their greater density. So why they float? Because of the greater density, and are of course extremely small, but their number is also great. Means even though the particles which flows, the number may be little, but it is also extremely small. The flow of water has undoubtedly played a great role So water plays a great role and a beneficent one in the geological purpose. So water is useful also, and it plays a very important role also in the geological process. Geological means formation of earth. In that process, it plays a very important role, by which the soil on the earth's surface has been formed. So why it is important? Because the water helps for the formation of earth from the crust of it, from the rocks of its crust. Here one formation of soil, you might have read it in the previous class, that is the constant fall of the water on the rocks helps to break the small pieces of rocks, and later it will be converted into the soil. The same agency, here the same agency is water. Water, however, under appropriate conditions can also play a destructive part and wash away the soil, which is the foundation of all agriculture. So far, the writer has described the importance of water. Now he is telling that if it is unchecked, then it plays a destructive role also. And how it will play the destructive role? By washing away the soil, which is the foundation of all agriculture. So as we know that soil is the foundation of agriculture. Soil is must for the agriculture, and if allowed to proceed unchecked, can have the most disastrous effect on the life of country. If that is not stopped, if it is not cared, if it is not checked, then it has the most disastrous effect for the life of country. Means it will have a disastrous effect for the villagers. How? We can see the problem of soil erosion, and this problem is witnessed in various countries and especially in many parts of India. So soil erosion, we can see it not only in other countries but even in India also we can see. The conditions under which it occurs and the measures by which it can be checked deserve the closest study. So as it must be closely studied, these two things, that is, in which conditions the soil erosion takes place and what measures should be adopted to stop the soil erosion. Soil erosion occurs in successive steps, the earliest of which may easily pass unnoticed. In the later stages, the cutting up and washing away of the earth is only too painfully apparent in the formation of deep gullies and ravines which make all agriculture impossible. So the writer says here that when this soil erosion is not stopped in the early stages, later it will form the deep gullies and ravines. So gullies and ravines means the channels made by the running water. So what is a channel? Channel is the way, we can say it, when the water flows with a great speed. Due to the pressure, it takes the way, and that is called as the gullies and ravines. And when this takes place, it is impossible, that place is impossible for the agriculture. Sudden burst of excessive heavy rainfall resulting in large run of surplus water are the principal factor in causing soil erosion. So another one factor is the excessive, too much heavy rainfall, and due to that large run of water, surplus maximum water flows down, and it is also one of the cause of soil erosion. Contributory causes. Contributory, relative, other causes are the slope of land. When the land is sloped, then removal of the natural protective coat of vegetation due to the soil erosion. The protective layer which we could find it on the soil, that will be removed. Then existence of ruts. So when the water flows with a greater speed, ruts will be formed. Ruts means here deep paths, that is ditches, we can say it, due to the pressure of water. Water can flow with a rapidly gathering moment. So when the water flows down with a great speed, and the absence of any checks to such flow, incredibly large quantities of precious soil can be washed away if such conditions exist. So when all these above things occurred, the result would be soil erosion, because the precious soil will be washed away. As it is very unhappy, too often the case, when often like this takes place, it is a very unhappy situation. The menace which soil erosion, so menace means here the threat which soil erosion presents to the continuance of successful agriculture is an alarming one in many parts of India. So when all these things occur, it is an alarming situation for in many parts of India, and it must be stopped urgently, and it must be prevented. It must be stopped. So how the soil erosion can be stopped? There are certain measures: the terracing of land, the construction of bunds to check the flow of water. So what must be done? The terracing of land, that is elevation of the land in a proper way. Then bunds must be constructed so that the water should not flow down wastefully. Then the practice of contour cultivation, So contour cultivation means cultivation along the same level of elevation. So however the land is there, the crop must be cultivated accordingly without making it in a equal way. And the planting of appropriate types of vegetation, that is proper vegetation should be grown, are the amongst the measures that have been suggested. It is obvious that the aim should be to check the flow of water at the earliest possible. So what is our aim here? We must have to stop the flow of water in its earliest stage before it has acquired any appreciable momentum and correspondingly large destructive power. Before the water destroys the things, we must have to prevent it. We have to take the measures so that the soil erosion should not take place. In the 10th paragraph, water is the basis of all life. So water is the foundation of all life. Water is the base of our life. That is, water is very, very important and essential for us. Every animal and every plant contains a substantial proportion of free or combined water in its body. So water is necessary for human beings also, and even for animals also. Water, we can consume it directly or with combining with any other liquid, and no kind of physiological activity is possible in which the fluid does not play an essential role. Means we cannot find it any activity without water. Means water is essential and very, very necessary for all life. Water is of course necessary for animal life also, even not only for human beings, even for animals also. It is very necessary. While moisture in the soil is equally imperative for the life and growth of plants and trees, so here water is necessary for the moisture in the soil. Moisture is the wetness. Unless the soil is wet, we cannot grow anything in it. So here we can see that water is important for human beings, for animals, and even for plants also. The preservation and utilization of water is thus fundamental for human life. That's why we must preserve it, we must protect it, and we must utilize the water judiciously. Apart from artesian water, the ultimate source in all cases is rain. So here rain is the main source of water, and even artesian water. So artesian water is the underground water which is springing from a hole. That is water getting from the underground, and the main source of water is rainfall or snowfall. Much of Indian agriculture depends on seasonal rainfall, as India is a agricultural country, and our agriculture is totally dependent on the rainfall, and that rainfall is seasonal. Means in the seasons only we can get the rainfall, and is therefore very sensitive to any failure or irregularity of the same. So the failure of the rainfall and the irregularity of the rainfall, we must have to preserve the water. The problem of soil erosion and of inadequate or irregular rainfall are closely connected. So here, as India is an agricultural country, and for the good agriculture, two things are required. One is soil conservation, that is protection of the fertile soil, and another one is utilization of water. So when we have the soil erosion and inadequate and irregular rainfall, then it is very, very difficult for the agricultural country, and these are closely connected with each other. It is clear that the adoption of techniques preventing soil erosion would also help to conserve and keep the water where it is wanted. So that's why we must have to conserve the soil, and we must have to protect the water, that is, we must have to save the water so that in needs we can utilize that water in whichever place we want it. In other words, on and in the soil. And such techniques, that is, on and in the soil means water should be saved so that it can be utilized it with the underground water, or through the bore wells, or by creating or by constructing the large tanks. And such techniques therefore serve a double purpose, and these techniques will be helpful. It is evident that, however, that is, in country having only a seasonal rainfall, an immense quantity of rain water must be necessarily run off the ground. So here, as India is a agricultural country and the rainfall occurs in the season, and much of the water flows down on the ground, the collection and utilization of water is therefore of vital importance. That's why in the rainy season, how much water we get it, that water must be preserved and it should be utilized it should be collected it. Much of it flows down into the stream, so as rainwater it joins to the streams, then to the rivers, and ultimately finds its way to the sea, and lastly it joins to the sea. Incredibly large quantities of the precious fluids are thus lost to the country. So much of the water, when it is wasted, when it flows down on the ground, surely it is a loss to the country. The harnessing of our rivers. The harnessing means controlling the rivers, means stopping the rivers from the floods, the water of which now mostly run to the waste, is a great national problem, and it is a national problem which must be considered and dealt with on national level, and that problem must be solved in a national level. Then areas of land. Vast areas of land which at present are mere scrub jungles. So here vast areas of land we find it, and those are scrub jungles. Scrub jungles means the forest consisting of stunted trees. Could be turned into fertile. So what should be done? It should be turned into the fertile and prosperous country by courageous and well planned action. So how it could be a well planned action, proper methods to be followed, and fertile land, and that land should be made as fertile. Closely connected with the conservation of water supply is the problem of afforestation. So here, when water is conserved, we can convert the land into forest. Afforestation, that is planting areas with the trees. So much of the land should be planted with the trees so that the soil erosion could be stopped. The systematic planting of suitable trees in every possible or even in impossible areas, and the development of what one can call civilized forest. So here, the place where area is there, open area is there, maximum plants, systematically plants should be grown, and then it is called as the civilized forest. So civilized forest means man-made forest, that is plantation is done by the human beings. As distinguished from wild and untamed jungles. So it is totally different from the wild and untamed jungle. Wild means here the plants grow naturally. So here many trees grow naturally, and that is called as untamed jungle or wild place. Is one of the most urgent need of India. So urgently India needs these things, that is civilized forest and even wild and untamed jungles. Such plantation would directly and indirectly prove a source of untold wealth, and these jungles will be helpful in one or the other way. It will be very helpful in the financial matter. They would check soil erosion and conserve the rainfall. As we know that forests are helpful for the conservation of soil, and it will be helpful for the rainfall also. The measures necessary to control the movement of water and conserve the supplies of it can also serve subsidiary purpose of value to the life of the countryside. So here, soil conservation and utilization of water, these are helpful for the villagers, and they are subsidiary. Subsidiary means secondary or less important. By far the cheapest form of internal transport in a country is by boats and barges through canals and rivers. So here another thing the writer describes is internal transport, that is transporting the things within the country, and it must be carried by boats and barges. Barges means large boats with flat bottoms. So the transportation can be carried by the boats and even by the barges, and they can be carried through the canals and the rivers. We hear much about programs of rail and road construction, but far too little about the development of internal waterways in India. So as we see that Much importance is given for the road transport, but very little importance is given to the water transport. Then again, the harvesting of water supplies. Water supplies usually also makes possible the development of hydroelectric power. So water supply is also helpful for the hydroelectricity also, and the availability of electric power would make a tremendous difference to the life of the countryside. And the availability of electric power in the villages, it will make a tremendous difference. It will make a great difference to the life of the villagers and enable the rural economy to be improved. And there, with the power supply, their rural economy will be improved. In particular, it would enable underground water to be tapped to a greater extent. It will be helpful for the tapping of the underground water also, and this help to overcome the difficulties arising from irregularity or inadequacy of other sources of supply. So when the water is stored, it will be helpful for the villagers in non-season, that is in the irregularity or inadequacy of the sources of supply. In one sense, water is the commonest of liquid. In other sense, it is the most uncommon of liquid with amazing properties. So here the writer says that water is common as well as it is uncommon. It is common because it is available everywhere. It is uncommon because the properties which the water has, we could not find those properties in any other liquid. It is therefore of the highest scientific interest and is far from exhausted field of research. So it is such a field that one could research on it, and it is a very interesting topic. Thank you very much. Today we have completed the lesson